Gentlemen, here's the thing. You're sitting down with your wife at the dinner table and you make a noise. You go, all of a sudden, your eyes go wide. You look at your wife and you know what just happened. You just became your dad. This is the All In Podcast. We are three dads trying to prevent, for as long as we can, becoming our own fathers. Tune in, join in. You're going to want to be here.
Bada bing, bada boom. Bing, bada bing, bada bing, bada boom. Bada bing, bada boom.
All right, so fellas, here's the deal. We are three men in our late 20s. One of us is in our early 30s.
Wonder who it could be.
Various levels of hair loss, various levels of becoming our fathers. And so that's what we want to talk about. Have you guys had a moment recently where you just sat back and you're like, oh no, it's happening. I am the Progressive commercial. Clayton, we're tossing it to you. Hit lead off for us.
First thing I'm thinking of, and this is something I'm profoundly guilty of, I would like to apologize publicly to my wife and to my children, hopefully, that will be watching this someday. I'm profoundly guilty of rushing out the door for no apparent reason.
Like describe, like you just wake up and sprint out the front
It's
door?
just like, for instance, Sunday morning,
Yeah.
You know how it goes with children. There's a little bit of stress in getting out the door to go to mass. So we have 9 a.m. mass. It's an 11-minute drive to get to the church. And I had this conversation with my wife. She's like, it's an 11-minute drive, so we can leave it at 8:48. I was like, no, it's 2 minutes to get into the car, 2.5 minutes to get out of the car, and then get into the church and then get into your pew, and we can get there 3 minutes early. So we need to leave at approximately 8:36. And if we leave
At the latest.
if we
At the
at the
latest.
absolute latest, and if we leave at 8:36, we can leisurely, go about it. But anyways, growing up, it was like if we had a 9 a.m. flight, we're out the door at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're getting to the airport. And even if we're at the airport multiple hours in advance, my dad is 20 yards in front of everybody else, like sprinting, and we're like trying to catch up with them. And so I create undue anxiety in the household with wanting to be on time or early everywhere we go.
Mm.
It's like even if you leave with plenty of time, you're still like rushing.
There's still part of me that's just like,
What could go wrong?
yeah, there's something that's gonna happen.
Tire blows out, car breaks down.
It could be anything.
7 red lights in a row.
Sometimes my middle child he knows how to buckle himself, but then sometimes he complains that he can't buckle himself. So we got to pull over on the side of the road, get back there, buckle him because he doesn't like to be. I'm like, if you've got the center one, you got at least one of the bottom ones in the
good.
car seat. I'm like, you're gonna be fine. So we got to pull over and do that. You just never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, our family was famous for never getting to eat out. Like our go-to restaurant as a family was Super Salads. You guys remember that place?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, probably didn't have them. Where you're from,
In San
just
Antonio.
didn't have salad or soup.
We're not a big salad family.
But it was basically like an all-you-can-eat buffet salad place, and it was like kids, eat for $3.99 or whatever. And I honestly, I told my parents, I was like, I feel like I've been abused. You've never taken me to Chick-fil-A once in my life. And so now it's funny because we took our kids to Chick-fil-A like 3 days ago, and my parents were famous for, water only family, no sides. We're only getting the entrees. We'll buy chips. We'll buy vegetables, no soft drinks. I snuck in my own Coke Zero from the cooler in my car, hid it in my wife's backpack, ordered a cup of ice, and then poured my canned Coke Zero under the table. Then we went to the movie theater. And our family, similarly, never buy popcorn, never buy soft drinks, never get... You guys remember when we were kids, they had like those amazing kid packs at the movie theaters? It'd be like popcorn, nachos, a candy,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
and then a
Oh,
soda.
Yeah.
Like I dreamed about those.
Oh,
If
yeah.
only we could get one of those. And lean cuisine, the lean cuisine meals. Those were the two dreams.
At the movie theater?
No, just like in general. In
I
general.
went to private school. So
Yeah. But we snuck in popcorn in bags. We snuck in apple slices, and then we brought bottles of water. And we sat in the seats that we didn't pay for because they were better seats. Someone came in, kicked us out as I'm like grabbing all the backs of popcorn and apples and shoving them in my wife's purse. So I think just like being cheap, is something where I'm like, oh no,
Mhm.
I think we're becoming my parents.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that one a lot. A big one that I've been laughing to myself about lately is I'll do this to my wife a lot. So another public apology, but also to anyone that has been affected. Someone will ask me a question about something. Hey, why do you like to put on the parking brake on your car?
You put on the parking brake?
I do. The short answer is I grew up on a hill. But my natural inclination is to give them like a 20-minute oral history of parking brakes, how they came to be, why they're so important.
So here's the thing.
Before I
son.
even get into why to answering their question. And I used to get so annoyed at my dad. I used to like get mad at him. I used to start fights with him because he would do that. And it's like, man, I am becoming him. The other one, and I don't know if this is as much becoming my dad specifically, or just like becoming a dad. Anytime I travel, no matter how long my trip is, usually my work trips are 2 nights, 3 nights maybe, I'll bring 17 pairs of underwear. You know, like no matter what, you just never know.
Yeah.
And it's like I convince myself that like all these things could happen. I don't know if that's, I just feel like that's a very dad thing. Someone's like leaving 6 hours before your flight with all the kids. You know?
But it's like 17 pairs of underwear and then you pack one polo.
Yeah.
Like that is my dad in a nutshell. Always overpacked on socks, 1 pair of shorts for the vacation.
Another one that I always thought was funny with my dad is I feel like every single night when I would go say goodnight to my parents, my mom was in bed and my dad was reading a sports article.
Yes.
And, you know, my dad was big into soccer, Formula One, a lot of European sports. And he just knew everything about every single team player. He knew where they were from, where they grew up, right? How big their family was. But then he'd always forget like a birthday or would always forget like anniversary or like that I have a football game this weekend. And I would always be like, why are you like that? You know?
Yep.
And it's all of a sudden it's like, I'm always rattling off stats about random things, but I'll forget the most basic things in my life of like, oh yeah, my wife asked me to do this morning. I don't remember that, but I do remember that Johnny Football was born at this time on December 6th, you know? And it's like, why do I know that?
I feel like budgeting is something that comes up for me. Like I remember also my parents are listeners to the podcast. So shout out mom, dad. I love you guys. All good things. Glad that I am the way I am. Just want to make that clear before we dive into this. But just budgeting. So like my parents weren't like stressed about money, but I just think like maybe normal parents, they were, you know, oh my gosh.
You did go to private school.
Well, right. And you know, thermostat.
Yeah.
We were able to go 1 degree cooler than most families, right? But just like conversations like that, you know, my dad, the war of the thermostat, my dad always wanted it at 70. My mom always wanted it at 68. And my dad just be like, what do you think we're gonna heat, air condition the whole neighborhood? You know, like things like that are conversations that me and my wife have every winter. My wife and I have the annual argument about how long can we wait to turn the heat on? And it's a competition every year to see how long I can make it in convincing her. So it's like, hey, just wear a jacket. The next like, hey, just wear a pair of socks to bed. Just wear a pair of pants to bed. Just like grab your winter parka, go ahead and wrap that around you. Grab a beanie, you know? But we are not going to turn on the heat until the absolute last second when the water pipes are about frozen. That's when we'll click it on. So there's just little things like that. And so it kind of makes you wonder, like, are these things that we joke about, laugh about, are these healthy habits? Or are these just things that we've kind of convinced ourselves that are normal? Or if you actually look under the hood, maybe there's something deeper going on there.
Well, I think there's a distinction between perhaps the vices and virtues that we've picked up from our parents or our siblings or the people that we've spent, you know, the majority of our time with in our life. There's a difference between the vices and the virtues that we have picked up on, and then just the isms that we picked up on at the same time. So for instance, John Michael, we were roommates in college.
Yep.
And people have said for the last 12 plus years of our life that we sound the same.
Exactly alike.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so that's not necessarily something that's wrong. When I think about the getting out the door example, there was just, that was something that was ingrained in me as a child, is that, hey, you should be anxious about getting places on time. So there's definitely a distinction between, you know, me the way that when I see my children, I say, "Hey, bud," or Joseph will do something great, and I say, "Excellent." I'm like that. When I hear myself say those things, I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Without even thinking, those things come out.
Yeah. The whole time you're talking, I'm also thinking of like the opposite side of that coin, of what are the things we picked up in opposition of our parents.
Like, I'm not gonna do that, so I'm gonna do this.
And I was thinking about that because of your example. And this is shout out to Hispanics in Hispanic homes. I don't know why. I don't want to say all, but most Hispanic homes, for whatever reason, it's always really hot.
So true.
We went to visit my parents over Christmas break. And I've known this for the longest time. I always come prepared. I usually bring a fan. But they keep our house at 75, 76,
You're
77.
kidding.
Wow.
And so in my house now,
Is that a money thing or a comfort thing?
I think it's a comfort thing.
It's a comfort thing. That's
Because
just the preferable.
Mimi and I keep our house at 70, 69.
Yeah.
And anytime my parents come over, my mom just came to visit us and she brought like 3 coats. She brought, her luggage was blankets for when she would go to bed. She's like, this is unlivable. I don't think you guys do this. And it's like, Mom, you keep your house at 80 degrees,
Yeah.
So I was just thinking and laughing about like, what are also some of the things that we picked up? Yeah. A lot of the isms are really fun and funny to kind of laugh about.
As we look towards, things that we swore that we'd never do to build off that point, are there habits that your parents did where you're like, I will never do that? And maybe they're things you've actually held on to now. Things, maybe ways you were raised. Also, with all due respect to our parents, who we all,
Right.
We have great respect for, but just things that happen in the home that you're just like, I don't want that. I'd like to avoid that.
I'm trying to think back to my own experience. Honestly, it's not something that I've really thought much about. About things that I necessarily wanted to do differently for my parents. One thing that I have thought about a lot though is I'm so curious about what the conversations between my parents looked like when I was growing up. Like all these conversations that I have with my wife about parenting and school and rhythm of life and what they eat and how they spend their time, and he's got this behavior coming up. And so for me, I feel like there's still somewhat of a mystery of just what did they my kids, maybe they'll know. I'll share that with them when they become parents one day, of like, yeah, here's how we kind of like worked out some of these things. These are the things that we talked through. But I don't necessarily know what those conversations looked like with my parents. I don't know if I can name, besides just I would say, I use the example of getting out of the house on time. But I think that, my dad was very disciplined, very intentional, very forward thinking, which are all things that I've taken on from him. But then with that, there's the tendency to become, you guys can attest to this, uptight and anxious about things at the same time, that apply not just to getting out the door, but finances, when you don't necessarily need to be anxious about finances, or, whatever else that it is. And so that's something that I'm really aware of in myself. That's kind of broad, not specific, not any one specific thing, but knowing that that's something that I carry in myself that comes with both good and bad.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
I think being a parent has certainly humbled me to maybe many of the frustrations I had with my own parents. So things like, I felt like always my parents were the most strict of all my friends, whether it was sleepovers, movies, spending the night, lake houses. Like I remember there was, fun lake house trips that all the boys were getting to go, but I wasn't able to go, or the amount of activities that we participated in. They always kept those to a minimum to prioritize family time, family dinners. That was big for our family. And I was always frustrated because I'm like, why can't we just watch the Cowboy game together and we don't have to sit down and eat together? And so I think there was kind of a lot of commitments I made as a genius 14, 15, 16-year-old kid of like, I'm not going to be as strict. Like I would 100% let my kid do that. That now I look back on it, I'm like, thank the Lord that my parents did that. And I think my parents I felt like they were tough on me, But I look back and realize that many of the ways that they stepped in were super necessary. My oldest daughter, she has a temperament similar to me in that she has what my parents used to call in me a steel trap mind. So once I get an idea in here, I can't focus on anything else until that thing gets done. And I've watched my daughter have that same habit with certain things. And it is very frustrating for me as a dad to watch that because she is extremely stubborn until she completes that thing she wants to get done. And there's been so many times I told my parents last week, I feel like raising my daughter is penance for what I did to my parents in my stubbornness and argumentative nature and need to be right all the time. When your 6-year-old daughter's correcting you, you're just like, oh my gosh, that's probably how I was.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad, I'm so sorry. Like, I must have been such an annoying little kid to have to parent. So as you make these commitments in life and then you become a parent, there's a beautiful humility of maybe they actually did know what they were doing. How have you guys seen that?
Yeah, I think, my family's in a maybe different stage, right? We only have one kid, and I don't know, is he still a newborn? He's 5 months. Whatever that means,
He's getting
right?
into cute. He's out of alien stage and he's in cute baby stage.
Oh, I'm biased, but he's been cute
Yeah,
for a
he
while.
was.
So it's a little different, right? Because I'm not necessarily talking to him and seeing
No spankings.
nothing like that. But I think something that I've kind of been thinking about a lot too is just I'm looking up to my parents a lot more now that I'm going through the early stages of parenting, right? I'm also like just even the little things of just like changing diapers, waking up in the middle of the night to like shush them and they don't want to go back to sleep. So you kind of hold them. And I'm just like, man, my parents did that for me.
Yeah.
Like how could my mom and I joke because apparently when I was like 3 or 4 years old, the biggest thing that I would do is I would just go to her and be like, you don't love me. And I would just tell her that and like walk away. I have no memory of this,
Right.
But I'm just like, even things like that she told me is like the first time you said that, like it hurt a lot when you were a 3-year-old. But and just thinking like, man, like my parents loved me so much.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's helping me realize those things of like even the frustrating things, like they did so much for me.
Yep.
That's a lot of what I've been realizing.
Yep.
Even just as little as like, I'll stare at John Henry and I'm like, man, I will move heaven and earth for you. And then I start thinking like my parents took 3 kids under the age of 10, moved to a different country of a language they didn't speak, just kind of put everything on the line to take a job that maybe will work out. Just like did all these things that are like so scary. I don't know if I like right now I'm like, I wouldn't want to move to a country that's different from where everything I've known, to a language that I don't really speak, to all these things.
Yeah.
And it's just making me appreciate my parents a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you have kids, there's 2 things that happen. There's greater recognition of their strengths from when you were a child that perhaps frustrated you, and also greater empathy for their weaknesses as well. So one example that I'm thinking of in my head is, I by no means was I always afraid. There's moments when you're afraid of your dad, and where he gets angry about something, and you're kind of scared. You're scared of what he's going to say, and
you knew you messed up.
You knew you messed up, or whatever it is, and you're kind of afraid of your dad. And I remember feeling that way as a kid in certain scenarios. Whether it was like cleaning, like I would need to clean the house when I came home from school and like help put things away, but I'd be lazy and like would be watching TV. But then as soon as you hear the garage door opening, you're like, oh my gosh, and you get up and you start frantically cleaning because dad's about to walk in the door, and you want to make it seem like I've been working this whole time, or maybe when I've done something wrong, I'm like, oh my gosh. And mom says, dad's going to talk to you when he gets home. And you're just like,
tail between your legs.
My gosh, this is going to be so scary, and there's been little moments that I've recognized with my 5.5-year-old where, he's maybe not being as responsive to his mother in certain things. And, then dad, I come in and I kind of, I'm not yelling at him, but I'm speaking firmly and trying to tell him like, hey, this behavior is not acceptable. And he'll respond. He'll kind of like look down at the ground and he'll go, yes, Dad, and then, the behavior will change. And the thought has come up in my mind of just, what is going through his mind right now as a 5-year-old? Does he respect me or is he scared of me? And I don't want him to be scared of me. I want him to respect my authority, and I think that's something that kind of scares me a little bit. And so one thing I've become more cognizant of recently is whenever I have to be firm like that, making sure that at the end of the conversation, I lower my voice a little bit and I speak more gently. And I say, son, like, Dad loves you. I love you, even if you do something wrong. I need to speak firmly to you right now, but I just need you to know that behavior is not okay. You're not bad. You're not in a whole lot of trouble right now. I want to be clear with you, and just having that, get on his level moment, because again, I don't want him to be afraid of me in the same way that, I had experienced that as a child. And again, it wasn't that I was afraid of my dad the whole time, but it was just that, I don't know if he got on my same level like that after a behavior change.
100%. I think a lot of men say things like, "Oh, I just want to be a better dad than my dad was." Yeah, I hear that as a pithy one-liner from many men. And it's always struck me as somewhat odd, because the goal should never be, I'll just be a better dad than my dad was. Because one, I think it shows a lack of gratitude for maybe many of the hidden sacrifices that your dad probably did. And yeah, maybe he wasn't perfect. Maybe he was messed up. Maybe he did some things that were hurtful, or, left some marks that you had to deal with a little bit later in life. But if the goal is just to be a better version of someone who was, that you don't have, that you don't want to emulate, then you still don't have anything to go off of. Like, what's your model? Your model can't be not being this person. Your model has to be, I want to be something. And a lack of something doesn't create what you should be. And so I'm wondering, as we look at our parents, it's that there should be both a gratitude of becoming like your parents, and then also a filtering out of things that you're just like, yeah, I don't want to do that. That's okay. It's not an attack on my own parents, but it's an inventory of what are some really awesome things that they did. And I want to show gratitude to them for that. And then what are some things that I don't want to carry over into my family, not as an attack or a accusation of my parents, but things that just for our family we'd like to do a little bit differently. And so for people who are listening, it could be a interesting exercise to just kind of think about that, and what are some of the things that you want to pull away. I think one thing just naturally is, like, my family growing up, extended family was a huge part of our life. So we were always spending time with grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, weekly, sometimes more than weekly. That had a huge precedent in our home and was very important. For our family, it's not that it's unimportant. It's just that logistically we live 13 hours from them. And so our kids are not going to have that same upbringing where they're hanging out with their cousins every weekend. And part of that, I think, is somewhat healthy because we can control a little bit more who they're around. But another part of that is sad for me, because I want my kids to be around their grandparents, aunts and uncles, cousins, second cousins, so on and so forth. So are there things as you guys step into your fatherhood, your family, that you're looking back at and you're like, leave that, take some of this, move forward?
I think one of the big things that I want to take, at least from my dad and my mom as well, but my dad was a very generous man. Like, his way of showing love to people is by, like, giving them things. And one of the things that he would always try to give us is just experiences. Yeah. He was big on giving us experiences, whatever that was, whether it was going to a show, going to a concert, going to a game, more than it was like buying us anything. And then sometimes he did buy us any things because we were brats and we would, bug him about it. But I think that's something that, as I look back, I'm like, that was great. Like, he was always down to take us on a trip before he was down to buy us the new PS2 game. And that's something that I want to take away. It's something so little, right? But I think shaped me a lot into, like, just being a lot more aware of my surroundings, of different cultures, of different things like that. That was great. I think, keeping it on the silly level for now before I bring it up, one thing that I don't want to emulate is my dad cannot resist a sale or a bulk buy, And that's something I definitely don't want to emulate. I mean, you go in our garage,
Just piled high.
just so many things. And hey, sometimes it works out in my favor, right? Like he just gifted my wife and I a new Blackstone, which is great. And
That was from a sale.
and it's awesome. Well, it was from like a sale bulk
Yeah.
buy that he bought 3. And then he was like, "Oh, that's great. I'll give one to me, one to my brother, and then one for himself."
3 Blackstones.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
that's
just like, again,
hysterical.
like it's generous. It comes from a good place, but it's like,
Yep.
I don't want to just like always be spending money on things. I think on a deeper level, something that I'm very cognizant of is, and I don't think this was on purpose by any means. I think it was just like a lot of things going on and no one really knows how to parent, right? Until you're parenting. They never asked us about like what we were feeling. That's something that I've made very clear of like, we always want to like, and I always told Mimi of like, we need to be aware of how we talk about our feelings and we need to make sure we're talking about them in front of our kids.
Yep.
Right. And talking about what we're doing and how we're processing emotions. Because my parents never talked about emotions in front of us, never asked us about our emotions. And again, I don't think it came from a bad place if they didn't care. They just didn't know, right? Growing up in Mexico, the culture might have been different where like that just wasn't a thing. Maybe it was a thing of the 60s and 70s where no one talked about emotions. It was like things like that I'm like, I want to make sure I do that.
Yeah.
Because I see little things that I maybe like blame my parents about that could have been fixed if my dad or my mom would have just like asked me like, well, how does this make you feel? And why does it make you feel that way? Well, here's how you can process that. And just would have taught me those things. I think that would have been really helpful. Again, not from I don't think it came from a bad place. It was just from like they're just also figuring things out and this got kind of left on the wayside. What about you, Clayton?
There's 2 things I was thinking of. One, something that you brought up, John Michael, a decision that we made in the last few years was to move back closer to family. And, being close to family has been a huge, I would say we're ultimately, trying to move close to my in-laws. So my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and then 3 of my wife's brothers, live in the area or about to live in the area as well. And they're surrounded by, the parents on my mother-in-law's side and, cousins and tons of family friends and things like that. And that was something, I would say my in-laws have a much larger community. I came from a smaller family. They have a much larger community that they're a part of. But something that was really normalized at my house was like my aunt was over all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle was over all the time. My grandparents were coming over for dinner, multiple times, per week. They lived just down the street in an apartment, and so that was just part of family life, was that, every weekend, we were having some sort of a family dinner.
Yep.
And I want to give my children that same experience of being raised by family and with family. The other one that I was kind of thinking about that I think is somewhat funny, and I'm totally going to be this way when, my sons are, more competitive in athletics. I remember my dad, in middle school basketball, he had this little, I don't even know what it's called. It's so old school. You probably just do this on your iPhone now, but it was this little gadget where it was digital. It had a layout of a basketball court on it. And he would track all of my statistics throughout the game.
Tell Jose about the book that he made.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's got he would always, different experiences in my life. Like, my sophomore year of college in the summer, I went on a pilgrimage to Krakow, Poland for World Youth Day. And so he made a book with, all of the pictures that I took, which are, some of them are just random iPhone pictures of like something random, you know? But then he also made a middle school basketball book for me. So he would,
with all of Clayton's stats,
with all of my
per
statistics
game from 5th grade to 8th grade.
So
that's awesome.
The thing on this like little tracker that he had was like, it would show me, how many shots I took, how many made, how many I missed, where I made them and where I missed them, so that I would know, where on the court I need to practice my shot
Like
a
a
little
heat
bit
map.
more. It was a heat map.
Literally.
It was a heat
Literally.
map. And it was kind of a ritual. He was at every single one of my games. And after the game, he'd hand me the tracker and I would look at it and we would talk through my statistics together, and that's just kind of the way that his mind works. And that's the way that my mind works too. And honestly, that's the way that my eldest son's mind works as well. He's going to be totally into every statistic. And granted, we all know I'm a average to slightly above average athlete.
Yep.
In middle school, I had a slightly
3.5 out of 5.
better jump shot. I was the best player on my D2 basketball team.
Yep.
So not quite great, but better than most is how I'd put it. And
Middle school D2.
Middle school D2. Yeah, exactly. I was on the freshman year basketball team until football got out and all the real athletes joined the team, and then I got cut. So if that tells you anything. So I would say living by family, kind of that was something that we shared together, was this like, honestly, like love of statistics in sports, and kind of like overanalyzing things that don't need to be overanalyzed.
Yeah.
Doing their wins above replacement for 5th grade basketball. The sabermetrics of it all.
Defensive win shares of Clayton.
Two negative ones, one lighthearted, one a little bit more serious. Going back to buying stuff and being anxious about money. Our family was fine with money, but things would feel tight or anxious, and I could even like pick up on that as a 7th to 8th grader, high schooler. Tight, but then all of a sudden blow money on something that you don't need. It was like we're tight, and then we just explode with like a huge purchase on something. And so
I do that frequently.
Yeah, it's something that I feel guilty of, because I'm like, my wife and I are living on a budget. I'm like, hey, watch where you're spending, and then all of a sudden I go buy something. She's like, I thought we were on a budget.
Yeah.
Well, we needed this, and
I can blow money on big purchases. You can't.
But I think one serious thing is just that, all of us are going to bring weaknesses into our family. We're all going to hurt our wives, and we're going to hurt our children. And I think one thing that I wish my dad would have done a little bit better is owning up to that and apologizing. Like he would, it would kind of be one of those things where like maybe he knew he messed up, and so he'd be, I don't know, extra nice afterwards, or we'd go do something, but never just like,
just say, hey,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've tried to be aware of in the raising of my children, is like, yeah, I'm going to hurt them. I'm going to maybe scare them at times, but how do I make sure that they know always that dad has weaknesses, that I'm not perfect, and that, when I do hurt them, that's not who I want to be. And I'm sorry for that. So.
Yeah, it's cool. My daughter started telling me to apologize, because I think she's heard it from us, right? You need to apologize to your brother. And then when I do something wrong now, she's the one to say, Dad, you need to apologize. Apologize to me for the way you just spoke to me.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, what Dude, I love this, but I also hate it.
But it's also, you're like, dang it.
Just thinking back on my relationship with my dad, one of the things we shared in common was baseball. So my dad played college baseball. He's a great athlete. And one thing I'm super grateful for is he just never pushed it on us. So like he was always like, if you want to do theater, if you want to play piano, like if you want to play basketball, baseball, whatever you want to do, you do it. I'm with you. Luckily, I chose baseball. And as I went through my career, as a middle school baseball player, as a high school baseball player, my senior year, I had a moment where I wanted to go to A&M, but I had a few interests starting to come in from really small colleges. I'm talking like 1,000-person universities, D3, NAIA.
Like multi-directional.
Is that interest or just marketing emails that you're getting?
Look, their academic advisor promised me I had a spot on the baseball team. It was an all-women's school. But I considered it for a second, and one of their coaches came out and talked to my coach, and I sat down with my dad in like April of my senior high school, and it was kind of one of the first serious conversations you have with your dad. And I was like, Dad, like, should I go down this route? Should I not? Should I go to A&M? Should I try to go down this small school baseball route? And my dad just looked at me in the eyes, and he was like, at some point, everyone's going to hang it up. And it was like out of like a PG movie where it's like slow music. And he's like, everyone's going to hang it up. You can either quit now, or you can quit after college. Maybe you do really well and maybe you play in the professionals, but you're going to have to quit at some point, and life moves on. And it was just like the first kind of powerful dad-son moment.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, it does seem a little funny. But I think back and I'm like, if my dad wouldn't have given me that advice and said, no, I played college baseball, you need to play college baseball, I wouldn't have met you guys.
Right.
I wouldn't have met my wife, wouldn't have had my life transformed by Christ. And so as we sit back and look at our dads and look at our families, that becoming our parents isn't necessarily a failure. it's actually a sign that they had a deep impact on us, that formation works. Whether we want it to or not, our kids are going to become like us. And that's a scary thought. It's also a beautiful thought. Speaking of beautiful thoughts, this is the All In Podcast. We have a lot of those here. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and make sure to share this episode with one of your boys who is slowly but surely turning into a boomer. Maybe he's losing hair. Maybe he's grunting all the time. Maybe he uses a budget 2 or 3 budgeting apps. Whatever he's doing, make sure to share this episode with him. This is the All In Podcast. We are John Michael, Jose, and Clayton. We're glad you're here. We'll see you in the next one.